Imagine being born into a family, but raised like a stranger. Not by fate, not by mistake, but by choice, your family's choice. That's how Era grew up. This is her story. Era's mother died when she was 5. She remembered the scent of jasmine in her mother's hair, the way her arms felt warm even on the coldest mornings. And she remembered the silence that followed after. Her father, once a gentle, laughing man, changed. The light left his eyes, and a few months later, a new woman moved into the house. Era's new stepmother, Lena, was graceful, well-dressed, and polite to guests. But behind closed doors, she had rules. One of them was simple. Era was no longer part of the family. She was given the smallest room, barely bigger than a storage closet. Her toys vanished. Her books were thrown out. Her clothes were replaced with oversized uniforms. Her father, lost in his own world of business and avoidance, didn't notice. Or maybe he chose not to. Era cleaned dishes while her stepsisters painted their nails. She woke at dawn to sweep floors, iron school uniforms, pack lunches, for everyone but herself. Every act of kindness she once received was now a distant memory. She wasn't living. She was surviving. But even in silence, a heart still dreams. At 17, Era was a ghost in her own home. She walked to school with worn-out shoes and secondhand books. She kept her head down, avoided attention, avoided questions. She wasn't bullied, just ignored. And in many ways, that felt worse. One rainy day, her hands full of groceries and no umbrella, she slipped on the muddy path near the market. Groceries scattered across the ground, soaked and ruined. Before she could even move, someone knelt beside her and began picking them up. "You all right?" he asked gently. She looked up, surprised by the kindness in his voice. He had warm eyes, the kind that held no judgment. He offered her his umbrella and carried the bags to the street corner before smiling and walking away. She never even got his name. What if the smallest act of kindness becomes the one thing you hold on to in the darkest times? A few days later, Era noticed something strange. That same boy, now wearing a staff badge, walked into her school. He was introduced as Kian, the new assistant music teacher. Her heart skipped. She wasn't sure why. She didn't even think he'd remember her. But he did. "Hey," he said one afternoon after class. "You're the one from the market, right?" She nodded. They smiled. That was it. But something about that smile stayed with her all night. Over the next few weeks, Kian began to notice things. How she stayed behind after class. How she hummed softly while cleaning. One day, he caught her singing under her breath while wiping the blackboard. "You have a beautiful voice," he said. She froze, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to." "No, don't apologize. You really do." It was the first compliment she'd heard in years. Sometimes it's not love that changes your life. It's being seen for the first time. Music class became her escape. Kian started giving her extra help, showing her how to play piano, helping her understand songwriting. It wasn't just about music. It was a friendship, a safe space. And slowly more than that. But nothing stays hidden for long in a house filled with jealousy. Her stepmother noticed the change in Era's face. The quiet happiness. The way she lingered after school. One evening, Era came home to find her diary open on the dining table. Her stepsisters had read everything. That night, her stepmother slapped her. "Do you think a man like that would ever love a girl like you?" she hissed. "You're nothing. You live under my roof because I allow it." Her father didn't intervene. He stared at his tea like it was more important. The next morning, Era showed up to school with a bruise she tried to cover with makeup. Kian noticed immediately. "What happened?" "I fell." He didn't believe her, but he didn't push. Instead, he offered her his silence and safety. When love becomes your only shelter, even the smallest kindness feels like a home. Over time, their bond grew. He invited her to a weekend music workshop. She lied to her family and went. For the first time in her life, she stood on a small stage and sang in front of strangers. The applause made her tremble. "You belong here," Kian told her afterward. "You don't have to live the way they make you live." I don't have anywhere else to go, she said. He didn't reply then. But she noticed him growing more thoughtful. He started staying after class longer. He asked about her plans after school. And then one day, he handed her a flyer for a scholarship program abroad. You could apply. You're good enough. No one's ever told me that before, she whispered. Believing in someone is sometimes louder than saying, I love you. One Friday evening, she returned home to find her room empty. Her clothes, her books, her music notes, all gone. Her stepmother stood in the hallway. You're done with school. You'll work full-time at my friend's house. They need a live-in maid. I didn't agree to that. You don't get to agree or disagree. That night, Aisha sat on the floor of the kitchen, hugging her knees. She didn't cry. She just stared at the cracked tile under her fingers, feeling like her life had ended before it began. Then she heard a knock. At her window. It was Kian. He wasn't smiling this time. He looked serious, nervous. He handed her a backpack through the window. There's a bus leaving in 30 minutes. I bought you a seat. And I applied for the scholarship in your name. You got it. She stared at him. You did what? We leave tonight. Plane tickets are inside. I didn't know what else to do. But I can't watch them keep you locked up like this. I can't just leave, she said, her voice shaking. You can. You have to. Aisha looked back at her dark hallway. Her stepmother's footsteps upstairs. Her father's silence. Then she climbed out the window. She wasn't running away. She was finally walking toward something that felt like hers. They took the bus to the city. The ride was silent. She held his hand. He didn't let go. Months passed. Aisha studied music. She worked part-time jobs. She shared a small apartment with 2 other students. She recorded songs in a cheap home studio. And every step of the way, Kian was there, supportive, respectful, never pushing. They didn't call it love, not at first. It was freedom, trust. And over time it was more. 3 years later, Aisha stood backstage at a concert hall. She was about to perform her first solo concert. A full crowd. Press. Lights. Cameras. She stepped into the spotlight. The music started. And her voice, once silenced, filled the air. In the front row, Kian sat with tears in his eyes. After the show, she walked up to him, still breathless. You once said I belonged here, she smiled. You always did, he replied. He reached into his coat pocket, then paused. Can I ask you something? She laughed nervously. Now. He knelt, right there in the middle of the backstage chaos. Marry me, Aisha. She didn't say yes. She threw her arms around him and whispered, I already did, the moment I climbed out that window. They said she was nothing, but he saw everything she could be. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded they are not what others label them. They are who they choose to become. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that heal the heart.